He's connected with us on Zoom, but it's just the video and audio is not working. Now he is logged off. So
Krishna, can you hear me now?
Jai, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Sorry to keep you all waiting. These computer problems these days, you cannot control them.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my and our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So nice to see you, Maharaj.
Okay, so
Maharaj,
let me sort myself out a little bit. Okay, ready.
Yeah, all right, wonderful. So before we begin, Maharaj, with your blessings, I just announced before you joined in, the School of Vedic Studies, of whom you've been one of the most esteemed and looked up to teachers who have stuck out with us. So from the bottom of our hearts, first of all, thank you very much. And on top of that, today we have hit the 1,000 subscriber mark in the YouTube channel of ours, which means that we can actually do live streaming of our programs direct from the YouTube.
Very good.
We're very grateful to you and thank you for your association and blessings, which has made this happen. And thank you to everyone who's been associated with us. We are very, very grateful. It was a very kind of a simple, humble initiative just to, keep ourselves busy and associated with Krishna consciousness during the difficult times of COVID. And somehow we have reached this milestone. So thank you all very much. Now, we've kind of resumed back our format of studies of Srila Prabhupada's book, systematic studies of Srila Prabhupada's books. And Maharaj has taken us through, the entire overview of Bhagavad Gita, the 12 Mahajans, Nectar of Instructions. So we've really have got the opportunity to go through many of the Prabhupada's books with Maharaj. And Isopanisad is indeed one such book that Srila Prabhupada commented upon with his devotional ecstasies, which is his purports. So before we begin this course today, which is 18 verses, there is a very beautiful quote that I picked up, and I thought this could be very apt before we begin this course. Srila Prabhupada says in one of the purports of Isopanisad, he says, in summary, a philosopher is better than a laboring man, a mystic is superior to a philosopher, and of all the mystic yogis, he who follows bhakti yoga, constantly engaging in the service of the Lord, is the highest. Sri Isopanisad directs us towards this perfection. Very profound words, and we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj guiding us on this path of perfection that Srila Prabhupada presented to the whole world. Many of our devotees and friends have joined us probably for the first time, so I'll do a quick introduction of our dear Maharaj. His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj actually joined ISKCON in the year 1979, though he had joined before that while Prabhupada was on the planet, but kind of officially he joined in 79 at a very young age of 22 years. He was serving in the UK, then he served in the US in New Vrindavan. And in 1993, he took the order of sannyas from His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj. And since then, he's been one of the long-standing sannyasis in our movement. He's also one of our ISKCON gurus and a respected member of the Sabha, which is basically a sangha of sannyasis, gurus, and GBCs in ISKCON. His base is the Bhaktivedanta Manor in the UK, and he travels in Europe, in India, and in the other Asian countries like Indonesia, Singapore, so, and the Middle East, by the way. So we are very, very fortunate again to have him with us. We will have the next few Saturdays where he will take us through this course on Isopanisad. Without much ado, I now hand over the mic to His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj to take us through this wonderful journey of Sri Isopanisad. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So have I got screen share?
Yes, Maharaj, you have it. Maharaj, you can do so.
Hare Krishna. You have to bear with me. My computer is playing up a little bit here today. It's got its own mind. Okay, so as Rasika Prabhu said, we are going to go through the Sri Isopanisad, and today's presentation is basically we'll concentrate on the introduction, the invocation prayer, and the first three mantras. So this is part one. Of course, Prabhupada had placed some emphasis when he wanted this Isopanisad printed. In the beginning, in the introduction, there's a lecture he gave here in London. So we'll go through the basis of that lecture, which is the foundation of what Prabhupada is going to teach us about Sri Isopanisad. So the first one, we should understand that Sri Isopanisad is one of the first and foremost of all Upanishads. Now we all know that Srila Prabhupada explains about the different Vedas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and different scriptures. And out of that is 108 Upanishads. And the most important one, Srila Prabhupada felt was needed for us in our Krishna conscious practice. He translated this. And what it means is Upa means near, Ni means down, and Sad means sit. So near, sit, down. So that translates into to sit near the spiritual master. Now, of course, this picture is very nice. Potential Prabhupada sitting with his disciples. It's not just sitting next to the spiritual master, but actually associating the spiritual master and hearing from him. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us opportunity to hear and understand the transcendental subject matter is discussed in Sri Isopanisad. So Sri Isopanisad is a very important book. As we will go through the different verses, we'll understand that it is introducing us to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Then the only person who can really give us Krishna is a pure devotee who understands Krishna. So here in this picture, we can see Prabhupada is meditating very deeply on Radha Krishna's pastime, Krishna giving knowledge to Arjuna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being merciful to his devotees. So it's a very good picture to start our meditation on, reflect on Srila Prabhupada's mercy which is given to us. So how does the Sri Isopanisad help us? Isa means Supreme Controller. Iso means to help us understand the Supreme Controller. So as I said, Srila Prabhupada is revealing us the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the teachings of the 18 mantras of Isopanisad. So the teachings of the Vedas, Srila Prabhupada delivered this lecture at the Conway Hall in London on the 6th of October 1969 when he came to England. And he started this lecture with saying, ladies and gentlemen, today's subject matter is the teachings of the Vedas. What are the Vedas? The Sanskrit verbal root of Veda can be interpreted variously, but the purport is finally one. Veda means knowledge. Any knowledge you accept is Veda, for the teachings of the Veda are the original knowledge. In the conditioned state, our knowledge is subject to many deficiencies. The difference between the conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects. So of course, here we have to understand that the conditioned soul has many defects, and there are 4 principal ones. which will be discussed in this lecture, and then it will be elaborated further in the 18 mantras. So the first defect is that one must commit mistake. For example, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi was considered to be a very great personality, but he committed many mistakes. Even at the last stage of his life, his assistant warned Mahatma Gandhi, do not go to Delhi meeting. I have some friends and I heard there is danger, but he did not hear. He persisted in going and was killed. Even great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, President Kennedy, they are so many of them make mistakes. To err is human. This is one of the defects of conditioned soul. So of course, to make mistakes is one of the conditioned souls, as the English coin says, to err is human. The second defect is to be illusion. Illusion means to accept something which is not. Maya. Maya means what is not. Everyone is accepting the body as a self. If I ask you what you are, you will say, I am Mr. John, I am a rich man, I am this, I am that. All these are bodily identifications. But you are not this body. This is illusion. The third defect is cheating propensity. Everyone has the propensity to cheat others. Although a person who is full number one, he poses himself as very intelligent. Although it is already pointed out that he is an illusion and makes mistakes. He will theorize. I think this is this, this is this, this is that, and so forth. So, but he does not know even his own position. He writes books of philosophies, although they are full of defectiveness. This is a disease that is called cheating. Fourth defect, our senses are imperfect. We are very proud of our eyes. Often someone will challenge, can you show me God? But we do not have the eyes to see God. You will never see if you haven't the eyes. If immediately the room becomes dark, you cannot even see your hand. So what power do you have to see? We cannot therefore expect knowledge. We cannot therefore accept knowledge Veda with these imperfect senses. With all these deficiencies in a conditioned life, we cannot give perfect knowledge to anyone, nor are we nor we can solve, nor are we ourselves perfect. So therefore, we have to accept the Vedas as they are. So these teachings are very important. The 4 Vedas are originally coming from the Supreme Lord. They were given to Lord Brahma. And as we studied before, Lord Brahma is a Mahajan. He passed down this knowledge in a paramparic line. Today, we are privy to this knowledge by the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. So Veda is original. Now, Veda is also called Apurusha, devoid of human defects. So Apurusha means that it is coming directly from the Supreme Lord who is perfect. And as you have, the theme of this presentation will be 1, we make mistakes, 2, illusion, cheating propensity, and 4, imperfect senses. So source of Veda is the spiritual world, as I said, comes from the Supreme Lord. So further, Srila Prabhupada is elaborating. The Vedas are not compilation of human knowledge. Vedic knowledge comes from the spiritual world, from Lord Krishna. Another name of the Vedas is Shruti. Shruti refers to that knowledge which is acquired by hearing. It is not experimental knowledge. Shruti is considered to be like a mother. We take so much knowledge from our mother. For example, if you want to know who your father is, you can answer. Who can answer? Your mother. If the mother says, "Here is your father," you have to accept it. It is not possible to experiment to find out whether he is your father or not. Similarly, if you want to know something beyond our experience, beyond our experimental knowledge, beyond activities of the senses, then you have to accept Vedas. There is no question of experimenting. It has already been experimented. It is already settled. The version of the mother, for instance, has to be accepted as truth. There is no other way. The Vedas are considered to be the mother, and Brahma is called the grandfather. Therefore, the forefather because he was the first to be instructed in the Vedic knowledge. In the beginning, the first living creature was Brahma. He received this Vedic knowledge and imparted it to Narada and other disciples and sons. And they also distributed it to their disciples. In this way, the Vedic knowledge comes down by disciplic succession. As it is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, this Vedic knowledge is understood in this way. Of course, as I mentioned earlier on, this knowledge is called Shruti. Shruti means that it is coming down from the topmost Brahma all the way down through the process of hearing. And this is how the Vedic knowledge was passed down in the bygone days. As Kali Yuga progresses, then of course, it is not possible for us to hear something once and then remember it. So there are three kinds of evidence. One is called Pratyaksha, direct evidence, e.g. the sun disk. We'll look into this later. Second is Anuman, inductive knowledge, for example, hypothesis, and Sabda, knowledge from the authority, e.g. TV or radio guide. So of course, there are two ways of looking at it. There's one is opinions. You may have opinions. Maybe I think it's like that. Maybe I think it's like that. You can give your opinions according to your own level of understanding. Then this other way is actual facts as they are. So we in the Krishna consciousness accept facts as they are, which are coming down in the scriptures. So there are three kinds of evidence: Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Sabda. Pratyaksha means direct evidence. Direct evidence is not very good because our senses are not perfect. We are seeing the sun daily, and it appears to us just like the small disk, but it is actually far, far larger than many planets. Of what value is this seeing? Therefore, we have to read books. Then we can understand about the sun. So direct experience is not perfect. So Pratyaksha is sometimes not perfect. Then there is Anuman, inductive knowledge. It may be like this. It's called hypothesis. So we have many hypotheses. For instance, Darwin's theory says it may be like this, it may be like that. But that is not science. That is a suggestion. And it is also not perfect. But if you receive the knowledge from the authoritative source, that is perfect. If you receive a program guide from the radio station, authorities, you accept it. You do not deny it. You do not have to make an experiment because it is received from the authoritative sources. Of course, here Prabhupada is using this example way back in the 1969, that the television and radio station will produce a guide and tell you which program is coming at what time, or which station is going to broadcast which program at what time. And you accept this as facts because it is produced by the authority who are going to conduct these programs. Then, of course, Vedic knowledge is called Shabda Pramana. Another name is Shruti. Shruti means that this knowledge has to be received simply by oral reception. The Vedas instruct that in order to understand transcendental knowledge, we have to hear from the authority. Transcendental knowledge is the knowledge from beyond this universe. Within this universe is material knowledge, and beyond this universe is transcendental knowledge. We cannot even go to the end of the universe. So so how can we go to the spiritual world? Thus, to acquire full knowledge, it is impossible. So again, we have to understand that this knowledge has to come from authoritative sources. We cannot speculate on it. There is a spiritual sky. There is another nature, which is beyond manifestation and non-manifestation. But how will you know that there is a sky where the planets and inhabitants are eternal? All this knowledge is there, but how will you make experiments? It is not possible. Therefore, you have to take the assistance of the Vedas. This is called Vedic knowledge. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we are accepting knowledge from the highest authority, Krishna. Krishna is accepted as the highest authority by all classes of men. I am speaking first of two classes of transcendentalists. One class of transcendentalists is called impersonalists, Mayavadi. They are generally known as Vedantists, led by Shankaracharya. And there is another class of transcendentalists called Vaishnavas, like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnu Swami. Both the Sankara Sampradaya and the Vaishnava Sampradaya have accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personal Godhead. Originally, there was only one Veda, and there was no necessity of reading it. People were so intelligent and had such sharp memories that by once hearing from the lips of the spiritual master, they would understand. They would immediately grasp the whole purport. But 5,000 years ago, Vyasadeva put the Vedas in writing for the people of this age of Kali. He knew that eventually the people would be short-lived, their memories would be very poor, and their intelligence would not be very sharp. Therefore, let me teach this Vedic knowledge in writing. He divided the Vedas into 4, Riga, Sama, Atharva, and Yajur Veda. He considered the woman class and Sudra class, worker class, and Dvija Bandhu. The Dvija Bandhu refers to those who are born in a high family, but who are not properly qualified. A man who is born in a family of a Brahmana is not qualified as a Brahmana, is called Dvija Bandhu. So here Prabhupada is referring at different classes of people who are not very intellectually blessed, but their intelligence is so good that if they hear from the right source, then they can all be elevated to the highest platform. For these persons, he compiled the Mahabharata, called the History of India, and the 18 Puranas. These are all parts of Vedic literature. The Puranas, the Mahabharata, the 4 Vedas, and the Upanishads. The Upanishads are part of the Vedas. Krishna says that throughout all the Vedas, one has to understand him. Now, Prabhupada is setting here how Krishna is establishing himself as the original source of knowledge. Vedescha sarvayam aviva Veda. Krishna also says, Vedanta krit Veda Ved eva chaham. I am the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Therefore, the ultimate objective is Krishna. This is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So again, here is this a diagram depicting Vyasadeva's presentation. He divided all the literatures so that it is easy for us to understand. 4 Vedas, 100 Upanishads, 18 Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, the 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. Isopanisad is the foremost of the Upanishads. Srimad Bhagavatam is direct commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. And these are, and there are other supplements given by Vaishnava Acharyas. Vedic knowledge, Shruti versus Smriti. So Shruti is, of course, we receive directly by hearing process, and Smriti is in a written form, which is given to us as mentioned here by Vyasadeva. He saw the necessity in Kali Yuga that we will be short-lived and memories will be very, very foggy. So therefore, we have to have something which we can refer to in writing. So reveals absolute truth. Every word is unchanged. So Shruti is actually coming down from the Supreme Lord himself. There is mentioned, there's Vedas, there's Upavedas, and there's Vedangas. And all these literatures are fixed in the knowledge, and it cannot be changed. As Prabhupada always emphasized, that this knowledge which is coming down from the Supreme Lord in the Vedic knowledge, in the Vedas and the Puranas, are actually coming as it is, and we are presenting them as it is. So this, as Prabhupada says, these are revealed knowledge, and they cannot be changed. Now we come to Smriti. Smriti is composed by sages, and they may change from ages to ages. So again, this diagram is showing all the different say commentaries written by different personalities, different acharyas. They give their own interpretation of it, how we can practically accept it. But sometimes, as Prabhupada says, from ages to ages, there may be slight changes according to time, place, circumstances, so that the people can have a better chance of understanding that in their illusion life they're living, or maybe they are not very, very pure at heart. So still you can understand this knowledge. Now, this is where we come into the actual Isopanisad. This is an invocation prayer. Invocation prayer, which is the first introduction to the Isopanisad, which is giving us very insight of how the Supreme Lord is complete. So in this verse saying, Om Purna Ada Purna Midam, Purnat Purnam Uchate, Purnasya Purna Udaya, Purnam Eva Vishyate. So the translation is given by Prabhupada. The personality of God is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete whole. Whatever is produced from the complete whole is also complete in itself, because it is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So here is a very nice understanding given in the Upanishad, Isopanisad rather, that the Supreme Lord is complete and everything that comes from him is complete. So even Prabhupada says this material world, which is coming from him, is also complete and whole. Unfortunately, because we have the 4 defects as mentioned before, we cannot see this completeness in this material world. So the purport is given by Prabhupada. The complete whole, or the supreme absolute truth, is complete. Is the complete personality of Godhead. Realization of the impersonal Brahman or the Paramatma, the super soul, is an incomplete realization of the absolute complete. So there are different levels of understanding we get here. As Prabhupada is saying that partial realization is incomplete, but then if you follow the process of bhakti, then you come to full realization. Further, Prabhupada is saying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, citing this from the Brahma Samhita. The realization of the impersonal Brahman is realization of his Sat feature, or the aspect of his eternity. And Paramatma realization is the realization of his Sat Chit feature, his aspect of eternity and knowledge. But the realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, Sat Chit Ananda, bliss. So when one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes that these aspects of the absolute truth in their completeness, it is in their completeness. And it's also mentioned that it's not just Sat Chit Ananda, but also Vigraha, that he has a beautiful eternal form. Sometimes the Mayavadi just take the first 3 parts of it, that he is Sat Chit and full of bliss, but they disregard the Vigraha part, where it's saying he is impersonal Brahman. Thus the complete whole is not formless. Thus the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless, if he were formless, or if he were less than his creation in any way, any other way, he could not be complete. The complete whole must contain everything both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. So again, Prabhupada is emphasizing that if we see the Lord is formless or Brahman, then he is lesser than his creation, which has got a form. Therefore, that is not complete. So the Lord is complete when you have his full understanding. As Prabhupada is saying, the whole complete whole must contain everything, both within and beyond. So here in this slide, you can see so many trees, all almost identical, coming from the same blueprint. So even though each tree may look little slightly different, but the basic design of the tree, which is the genes which produces the tree, are identical. And therefore, we can understand from this example, as the invocation says, the complete whole come from the whole, and those who are completely coming from the whole are still complete. So all these trees are complete in itself, even though they come from the seeds which they produce and continue producing more, they still remain complete and whole. Another aspect is that the Supreme Lord, in his Karanaksha Vishnu form, he's lying there on Kajal Ocean, and then many universes are coming out. And this picture depicts so many hundreds of thousands of universes. In fact, infinite number of universes are coming out of them. And all these universes are complete in itself. Nothing is lacking. And even though it is completely coming from the Lord doesn't diminish in his power. He still remains complete and whole. And this slide is also very nicely depicting that in the spiritual world, Krishna expands himself many times to interact with his devotees in his different transcendental pastimes, and each one is thinking that Krishna is with them, but actually Krishna is with everyone at the same time, is complete and whole. So it doesn't diminish as experienced in the material world, that if we take something out of the whole, then that whole remains incomplete because there's something which is taken out, is missing. So we understand this in the three L's: the Lord, the land, and the living entities. So this is all coming from the Supreme Lord, which is explained now further. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is complete. Why? Because he is the full realization of the absolute truth. As mentioned earlier on, one, Bhagavan, the absolute Lord, he is complete, as we can experience and see and understand from knowledge from the Vedas, that he is Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Vigraha. He is eternal, full of knowledge, full of all blissful, and has a form. The next level down of understanding the Lord is Paramatma feature. He is displaying Sat and Chit, the eternal aspect and full of knowledge aspect. And Brahman is just an eternal aspect. So of course, the complete whole as Bhagavan is depicted here by the beautiful form of Gokulananda. He's complete and whole. So when you have that full understanding, then you will know the Lord is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. No other units in this universe need to make an extraordinary effort to try to maintain the universe. The universe functions on its own time scale, which is fixed by the energy of the complete whole. And when that schedule is complete, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete whole. So again, this is giving us insight that complete whole units come, they stay for a time, fixed time, which is arranged by the Supreme Lord's arrangement. And then at the time of annihilation, it is absorbed in the Lord, and then again, creation comes in. So this slide is depicting the sun and the planets, and everything is in perfection. And we can see how the Lord has created this perfection in such a way that just like we have a little watch, which has got many thousands of pieces working together, and it gives perfect time. So this universe is kept in such a perfect way that each and every planet is moving perfectly according to the design of the Lord. So therefore, here on Earth planet, we know the Earth goes around on its axis in every 24 hours. That constitutes 1 day. And it goes around the sun and for 365 days, that is 1 year. But if you go to the next planet up, Jupiter takes longer to go around its axis. So what we have a 24-hour day, Jupiter probably has a 40-hour, 50-hour day. But nonetheless, everything is perfect. It doesn't diminish in his workings. It is always perfect because, as mentioned in the beginning verse, that whole complete whole units come out from the Supreme Lord, and therefore they remain complete and perfect. The complete whole, the personality of Godhead, has immense potencies of all of which are as complete as he is. This is the phenomenal world. Thus, this phenomenal world is also complete in itself. 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation are arranged to produce everything necessary for the maintenance, subsistence of this universe. So again, this material universe is divided into 24 principal elements, which is required, as mentioned here in the purport by Prabhupada, that for all the necessities, everything is there for maintenance and substance of this universe. So this slide is telling about the 24 elements. There are the 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Then there are subdivisions, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the working senses, then the subtle senses, mind, intelligence, ego, and pradhana, which is the 3 modes of material nature. Then the different forms which we feel by the assistance of the knowledge acquiring senses: form, sound, smell, touch, taste. And then of course, there is the result of all the interaction of this material energy gives us pleasure, pain, pride, false ego. So land, as we all know, and this is very familiar with this, at least we are living on this planet, and this planet we know that is surrounded by land and water. So this is the gift of the Lord given to us in its completeness for our functioning and maintenance of our subsistence to exist on this planet successfully, to continue our journey back to the spiritual world. So these are the facilities given by the Lord in complete form. All facilities are given to the small complete unit, namely the living beings, to enable them to realize the complete whole. All forms of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. The human form of life is complete manifestation of the consciousness of the living being. So of course, as is mentioned here very clearly, that sometimes when we are incomplete in our knowledge, then we see that things are not complete, but they are actually complete when you are in full knowledge. And it is obtained after evolving through 8,400,000 species of life in the cycle of birth and death. In this human life of full consciousness, the living entity does not realize his completeness in relation to the complete whole. He loses the chance to realize his completeness and is again put into the evolutionary cycle by the law of material nature. So again, if you do not utilize this fully to realize the Supreme Lord, then you are put back into the cycle of birth and death. Because we do not know that there is a complete arrangement in the nature for our maintenance, we make efforts to utilize the resources of nature to create so-called complete life of sense enjoyment. Because the living entity cannot enjoy the life of senses without being dovetailed with the complete whole, this misleading life of sense enjoyment is illusion. The living entities, so we have gone the Lord, the lens, and now the living entities, that is us. All souls, jivas, are complete in themselves as a complete emanation from the complete whole. As Krishna is saying, Krishna is complete facilities for the complete happiness. So complete happiness is given to us in the form of connected with the complete whole in the service of Krishna. This is real dharma. Lack of happiness, incompleteness is experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So we have the opportunity to either have complete happiness or lack of happiness, depending on which path we choose. Again, Krishna has given us independence to choose the path we want. So if we want to be really happy and experience that eternal bliss, then we have to follow the real dharma, and that is to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. The living entities, for the living entities, there is hope, complete facility to go back home and to go there. Now, how that is there is saying by dovetailing all services in this world, special, social, political, communal, international, interplanetary, with the Supreme Whole. So when you are connected with the Supreme Whole, then our passage all the way to the Supreme Lord is very clear, and our destination will be reached without any difficulties. So the living entities is explained here by Prabhupada is giving a practical example. The hand of the body is a complete unit only as long as it is attached to the complete body. When the hand is severed from the body, it may appear like the hand, but it actually has none of the potencies of the hand. Similarly, the living beings are part and parcel of the complete whole. And if they are severed from the complete whole, the illusory representation of completeness cannot be fully satisfied. So this is a very nice example given here, as Prabhupada is saying, that if the hand is attached to the body, it is complete because it is functioning. As soon as it's severed, then it may appear like the hand, but all the functionality of the hand is lost. Now we go into the next first verse, the connection between Invocation and Mantra One. So Invocation describes all things in existence which emanate from the complete whole. Now the first mantra is giving us the complete whole is naturally the proprietor of all things. So in this next mantra, we'll get to know that all the completeness which is coming from the Supreme Lord, and next, who is the proprietor of all this completeness, or the whole universe which is created from the Supreme Lord. So the theme is Krishna is the complete proprietor of everything. The living entities are complete. They can only realize completeness by recognizing the Lord's proprietorship. This is what we call Ishivasa principle. Ishivasa idam sarvam. This is the first verse. So the first mantra is saying Ishavasam idam sarvam yat kinchi jagatam jagat tena yaktena bhunjita magreda kasyat swavidhanam. So the translation by Prabhupada is everything eminent and inanimated that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this is very clear. There is no need for interpretation, but still because our tiny brains are confused of this illusionary world, we need some further information, and therefore in the purport, Prabhupada is giving explanation that the Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down through the perfect disciplic succession of spiritual masters. Everything within the Lord himself, since he spoke the first word of the Vedic knowledge, the source of this knowledge is transcendental. The words spoken by the Lord are called apurusha, which indicates that they are not delivered by any mundane person. A living being who lives in the mundane world has 4 defects. 1, he is certain to commit mistakes. 2, he is subject to illusion. 3, he has the propensity to cheat others. And 4, his senses are imperfect. No one with these 4 imperfections can deliver perfect knowledge. The Vedas are not produced by such an imperfect creature. Vedic knowledge was originally imparted by the Lord into the heart of Brahma, the first created living being. And Brahma, in his turn, disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples, who have handed it down through the history. Since the Lord is Purnam, all perfect, there is no possibility of his being subjected to the laws of material nature, which he controls. However, both the living entities and inanimate objects are controlled by the laws of nature and ultimately by the Lord's potency. This Isopanisad is part of the Yajur Veda, and consequently it contains information concerning the proprietorship of all things that exist within this universe. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is the proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by Lord as his quota. Now he's giving an example here. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Such is an arrangement of the Lord. Thus, we should be satisfied with those things he has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong. Human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. They must be intelligent enough to realize the importance and aim of the human life. The Vedic literature is meant for humanity and not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs can kill other animals for food without incurring sins. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste buds, he is responsible for breaking the laws of nature. Consequently, he is punished. A human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. He must offer everything for the Lord's service and partake only of the remnants of food offered to the Lord. This will enable him to discharge his duty properly. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26, the Lord directly states that he accepts vegetarian food from the hands of a pure devotee. Therefore, a human being should not only become a strict vegetarian, but he should also become a devotee of the Lord, offer the Lord all his food, and then partake such prasadam or the mercy of the Lord or God. The next stage is the 3 Bs. The 3 Bs are divided into books, Bhagwan, and the body. Of course, books are giving us knowledge devoid of all the 4 defects of living entity. Isopanisad gives us knowledge of the Lord and his energies and how we receive this knowledge through the books, Guru Parampara. Bhagwan, we know the personality of God is described. He's the enjoyer, controller, proprietor of everything, not controlled by material nature or other living entities. The possessor and the proprietor of Parabhakti and Aparabhakti. The analogy is given of fire. We'll discuss this in a moment. The body, the soul is not the proprietor. If one claims so, it is seen. Recognizing the Lord's proprietorship, one should properly utilize all things in his service. Ishyavasa idam sarva principle. As we went to the example of cow gives milk and then it doesn't. So this is a recap of the first mantra. So here we have got an example of how the fire is burning, and we can see the fire is burning, and as fire is burning, there are sparks which come out of the fire, and all the sparks are same in potency as the fire, but it doesn't have the same potency to burn as the fire. So as long as the sparks are in connection with the fire, they can emit light and they can act as minute fire. But as soon as they're distant from the fire, then what happens? The power becomes diminished. So similarly, this example is given in the Isopanisad that the living entity, when they're separated from the Supreme Lord, then they become diminished in power. And when they connect with the Supreme Lord, then they revive their constitutional position and revive the real life. Now, the connection between Mantra 1 and Mantra 2. Mantra 1 describes God-centered consciousness, and Mantra 2 describes the result of this consciousness. So now we have come through the understanding everything comes from the Supreme Lord, and then the second mantra, rather the first mantra is describing that everything is centered around the Supreme Lord, and our consciousness should become completely connected with that realization. Now, Mantra 2 is describing results of that consciousness. The theme of this is that result of acting in God-centered consciousness, what happens is the result of that. And it's explained here. Kurvan eva karmani jijikshak chaitam samaha evam tyavi tyayai nanatyo sti na karma lipyate nare. Translation. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way. For that sort of work will not bind him to the laws of karma. There is no alternative to this way for men. So again, in this verse, it's saying that if you want to live continuously for thousands, hundreds of years, you can go on working. What is that working? That you do everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and in the service of the Lord. That way, you will be happily situated. Otherwise, you will be victim of the law of karma. And then when you have law of karma, then you have to again pay for the result of your karma. So in Purport Prabhupada says, no one wants to die. Everyone wants to live as long as he can drag on. This tendency is visible not only individually, but also collectively in the community, society, and nation. There is hard struggle for life by all kinds of living entities. And the Vedas say that this is quite natural. So of course, is emphasizing that Vedas is saying that if you live a life separate from Krishna, then naturally there will be struggle for existence and it will be very difficult to exist happily. So the living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in the material existence, he has to change his body over and over. This process is called transmigration of the soul or karma bandhana, bondage by one's work. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the law of material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the laws of nature and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death in many species of life. Other life forms are also subject to the cycle of birth and death. But when the living entity attains a human life, he gets a chance to get free from the chains of karma. Karma, akarma, and vikarma are very clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita. Actions performed Actions that are performed in the terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures, are called karma. There are, of course, three types of work which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita: vikarma, karma, akarma. Vikarma is selflessness, individual and collective, result of karma bandhana. Selfishness. And karma is Vedic path of regulated sense gratification. Purified is one's against lower modes of nature. One gradually becomes ready to devote oneself more directly to the Lord. So of course, when you perform prescribed duties according to the scriptures, it will elevate you, and then you will become more and more attached to the Supreme Lord and engage in the service. And when you come out of that and get next stage, is called karma or nishkarmya, no problem with any ism, but spiritualizes them, makes them God-centered. So now when you are doing akarma, you're not incurring any good or bad activities. You're only freeing yourself from all this. The actions that free one from the cycle of birth and death are called akarma. And actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom and that direct one to the lower life forms are called vikarma. Of these three types of actions, that which frees one from the bondage of karma is preferred by intelligent men. So of course, if we are intelligent, then we'll take the path of the karma to we free ourselves rather from bondage in this material world, and just offer everything to Supreme Lord, as previously mentioned. Intelligent men well know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that work which will free them from the reactions of both good and bad work. Such liberating work is described here in the pages of Isopanisad. So again, is explained here Isopanisad, and same is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says to Arjuna, neither perform pious or impious deeds, simply perform devotion or bhakti. The instructions of Sri Isopanisad are more elaborately explained in the Bhagavad Gita, sometimes called the Gitopanishad, the cream of all Upanishads. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 9 to 16, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of nishkarmya or akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literatures. These literatures can regulate the working energy of the human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage of modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, ignorance, cannot act, and he is able to work on the basis of nishkarmya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. Akarma, nishkarma or nishkarma yoga is now, we are coming to conclusion of summary. Knowing God to be the proprietor, details of God-centered activities, nectar devotion gives us very much detail how we can live a God-centered life. Result of God-centered life is karma-free. One's life is one may aspire to live for hundreds of years. So if you are following the life of God-centered existence, then you can live for hundreds of years without any difficulty. As Prabhupada explains that even in the material world, if you're properly situated in mood of devotion, then you will not feel the pangs of material miseries, and you'll be quite happily situated here by the mercy of the Lord, and therefore you can be happy in this world or the next world. Actually, no one has to do anything more than render devotional service. Since service to the Lord, however, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adapt to the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. So in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, text 40, Lord Krishna states that God-centered activities are so valuable that just a few of them can save a person from the greatest danger. The greatest danger of life is the danger of gliding down again into the evolutionary cycle of birth and death among the 8,400,000 species. If somehow or other a man misses this misses the spiritual opportunity afforded by his human form of life and falls down again into the evolutionary cycle, he must be considered the most unfortunate. Connection between mantra 2 and mantra 3. So each mantra is connecting with the other mantra and giving us a little bit more depth. So now we are going into the third mantra. So recap of the second mantra is describe the result of God-centered consciousness. Mantra 3 is describing the result of not acting in a God-centered consciousness. So now if you are not following the life as prescribed by the Supreme Lord in the scriptures, then what is the result of that? So this is described in the third mantra. Asurya nama te loka andhena tamasvatvrita tamste pritya bhi gacchati yake chatam anhano jana. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So of course, if you are working without proper knowledge and working for the service of the Lord in the mood of devotion, then we will become the killer of the soul and we will be living a life full of misery and in darkness and ignorance. So the theme is human life, animal life. What is the difference? Responsibility is there. Then animal life, you act on the basis of instinct. You sleep when you are tired. You eat when you're hungry. You defend yourself. And basically, the human beings are responsible for their actions. Animals are not responsible for the actions because whatever actions they perform, they do it out of natural instinct for surviving. As mentioned earlier, that the Lord in His creation has given us all facilities to subsist in this world without any difficulty. So all the other species of life have been given their quotas and their way of life, and each life, after completion, they go to higher consciousness. When you come to human platform, then we have responsibility. And what is that responsibility? Is to connect with the Supreme Lord through Vedic knowledge and then serve Him. And the purport Prabhupada says, human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras, godly persons. And those who are neglectful of these responsibilities or who have no information of them are called asuras, demons. Throughout the universe, there are only two types of human beings. So we see in this material world, in the whole universe actually, not just this planet Earth, but the whole of universes in the material creation, are two types of beings. One is the demoniac, who have demoniac qualities, and this, if you want to know deeper about demoniac qualities and how to avoid them, you can read the chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. And of course, the other is the divine or the divinity, the suras, who are well knowledge and cultured, and therefore they connect with the Supreme Lord. In the Rig Veda, it is stated that suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminating as the path of the sun. So this is the aim, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Unless until we understand this knowledge properly, we will not aim for the Supreme Lord, which is our ultimate shelter. So intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul obtains a human form of life, human form after evolution of many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. This material world is sometimes compared to an ocean, and the human body is compared to the solid boat, designed especially to cross this ocean. The Vedic scriptures and the acharyas or the saintly teachers are compared to an expert boatman. These facilities of the human body are compared to the favorable breeze that help the boat to ply smoothly to its desired destination. Of course, Prabhupada has given this many times, this example, that we are in the ocean of material suffering, and to cross this material suffering, the ocean, we need a boat. Therefore, this human body is a perfect vehicle to transmigrate ourselves from the material world to the spiritual world. And if we take shelter of the Supreme Lord and His pure devotee, then we can cross over. So this is very nicely depicted in this slide. So this human form of human form of body is the most valuable boat, and the spiritual master is the captain to guide the boat in flying across the ocean of nescience. So the spiritual master removes us from the darkness of nescience, gives us knowledge, guidance, and then when we are in the boat of the spiritual master, he expertly guides the boat out of this material ocean of suffering and takes us back to the spiritual world. So if with all these facilities, a human being does not fully utilize his life for self-realization, he must be considered Atmaha, the killer of the soul. The Isopanisad warns in clear terms that the killer of the soul is destined to enter into the darkest region of ignorance and suffer perpetually. So this slide is showing us, at least in my vision, darkness of ignorance in hellish region where there is nothing but pain and suffering. So if you want to enter this hellish regions perpetually and suffer, then follow the life of sense enjoyment, sense gratification, and reject the authority of the Supreme Lord. So the killer of the soul in this third mantra is explaining Atmaha, enters into the planets full of darkness and ignorance. There are swines, dogs, camels, asses, etc., whose economic necessities are just as important to them as ours are to us. But the economic problems of these animals are solved only under nasty and unpleasant conditions. The human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal life. Why is man given better life than that of the swine and other animals? So of course, you know, if you have been on a farm, see a hog or a pig or a swine, which is called different names, same thing, are living a very filthy, very dirty, very unclean condition life, but they are quite happy because their condition is that way, and the Lord is providing their necessity. The dog is also living a very hellish life. Camels and asses, all these animals are actually depicting particular mode of suffering in this material world. A donkey is, for example, you know, is given everything it needs to survive nicely in the world, but unfortunately, he has to work very hard, carry heavy loads on his back just for a morsel of the little grass. But that is due to his karma. So we can end up in this situation, or we can be free from this situation. So again, Prabhupada is giving example why the different species are put in this suffering condition and how some people get a better situation. So here he's saying why a highly placed government servant is given better facilities than those of an ordinary clerk. The answer is that the highly placed officer has to discharge duties of a higher nature. Similarly, the duties of a human being have to perform, are higher than those of animals who are always engaged in simply feeding their hungry stomachs. So, you know, as Prabhupada mentions, I'm saying, animals are there for eating, sleeping, mating, defending, but we have a higher understanding for spiritual realization. Therefore, we act on a higher level to connect with the Supreme Lord and serve him. Yet the modern soul-killing civilization has only increased the problem of the hungry stomach. When we approach a polished animal in the form of a modern civilized man and ask him to take interest in self-realization, he will say that he simply wants to work to satisfy his stomach and that there is no need of self-realization for a hungry man. If a man fails to discharge his duty as a human being, he is forced to transmigrate into the Asura planets and take birth in a degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 41-43 is explained. It is stated that a man who enters upon the path of self-realization does not complete the process, despite having sincerely tried to realize his relationship with God, is given a chance to appear in the family of Suchi or Sriman. The word Suchi indicates spiritually advanced Brahmana. Sriman indicates a Vaishya, a member of the mercantile community. So here again, Krishna is establishing the fact that even if you are trying, if not successful, you will get a better opportunity in the next life, in a better situation to complete your journey. But however, if you are not trying for this, then the destination is very clearly that you end up in the lower planetary system. So what is your choice? It is up to us now what choice we take. The choice is we aspire to go to the spiritual world, back to God, as Prabhupada says, in Goloka, and enjoy the wonderful pastimes and life free of all anxieties, miseries, old age, birth, death, disease, free from all these things, and live a complete life of bliss and happiness. This is offered to us by the Supreme Lord himself. He comes to this world to give us this. Second, we can live a demonic life and face the consequence, birth after birth after birth, and go into the lower species of life and go like a yo-yo, going up and down, and never be freed from miserable condition. So this is our choice. It is up to us what we do. So these three mantras are leading us up to this level. We'll go into the part 2. Will take us further in our journey to be free from this. So I thank you all very much for giving me your time. Once again, I apologize for lateness of our timing. I will try to become a bit more punctual next time. We'll make sure my internet works properly. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. First of all, you don't have to apologize because you've been very punctual on, in fact, before time on all the outings in the past. But, technology doesn't work, perfectly all the time. So we absolutely understand that, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for this really wonderful session, the 3 L's and the 3 B's, and many other slides of yours, but this stood out for me. And also the fact that you brought out, from the teachings of Prabhupada, the centrality of these 3 verses, where that how we need to understand the proprietorship, ultimate proprietorship of Krishna. So we are really looking forward to the rest of the verses to hear from you. And we ask for questions. The only thing is that it's 8:45 in Oman, so it would be, I think, 10:15 in India. At least I'm talking about this part of the world. So though we would have liked to take many more questions, but we'll take, let's say, 2 questions only. There is one question that has already come from Sunaja Mataji. She's referring to your slide where you showed the 24 material elements, out of which one of them is Pradhan. And she would like to know from you, what does Pradhan mean?
Pradhan basically means, Pradhan comes under the subtle energies or subtle elements. So of course, mind, ego, intelligence is there. And Pradhan means 3 modes of material nature. So Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun. So all these 3 modes of material nature comes under the title Pradhan. Pradhan is a Sanskrit word.
Right.
So
thank you, Maharaj.
Next time I'll actually put English version rather than the Sanskrit.
Sure. And we'll take the last question for today's session from Vedanshi Vajpayee Mataji. Maharaji, what if we are unable to fulfill our purpose to attain Krishna consciousness? If we are unable to, how to ultimately achieve it?
Well, first of all, see, we have access by mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He has created, as he mentioned himself, that this International Society for Krishna Consciousness is the vehicle to give opportunity to mankind to come to the highest platform of self-realization. So through this Prabhupada's Institute of Krishna Consciousness, or ISKCON for short, is available to all mankind through his Sankirtan, book distribution, festivals, and many other ways to attract people. Once you come, then you have access to knowledge of self-realization, how to engage and accept Krishna as the proprietor, and then serve him in the spirit of devotion. Now, on the other hand, due to, of course, we have many attachments and material desires, so sometimes we cannot fully dedicate. Nonetheless, Krishna says that if you give your 100% in trying to execute devotional service, and still at the end you're lacking, then Krishna says, whatever you lack, I will carry, and whatever you have, I'll preserve. So if you are 100%, Krishna will give you that opportunity. Now, in the purport to Isopanisad, Prabhupada says that in case we don't complete our devotional life in this present life or the time which is given to us, then we get a better opportunity in the next life to continue from where we left off. But it is guaranteed that the next opportunity you get is going to be 100% better than the environment we are in today. So therefore, you'll be able to execute devotional service and also get higher realization and knowledge by the mercy of the Lord himself, because the Lord personally takes charge of you and makes sure that you complete. So either way, there is no loss in this. It's a win-win situation. But I have full faith in the verse where Krishna says, I will preserve what you have and carry what you lack. So I just tell everyone, don't worry about what our destination is. Just simply give your 100%. And then also Krishna says, Karmani eva adhikarastu ma phaleshu kadam. He says, just do your duty. Execute it very nicely. Don't worry about the result. Krishna says, I'm here. I will give you the result. But if you do anything with the mindset that I will do this, that, and other, hoping that I will get this result, then it is called motivated devotional service, which is not complete and perfect. So we have to go back to Nectar of Devotion, which gives us, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, the Nectar of Devotion gives us a handbook of how to perform devotional service, free from all motivation, unalloyed, uncontaminated, simply for the pleasure of the Lord. If you simply do this, then you are in the boat of Krishna consciousness, going back home, back to Godhead.
Jai. Thank you so very much, Maharaj. And with this, we come to the end of our session today. Vrinda has also sent all of you the link to the YouTube recording or YouTube live session that, since we went live. So kindly, watch it again on YouTube, and also, subscribe to the channel so that we get, more subscribers, and also share it with your friends, families, and satsangis. Normally, we get, we all come together to say goodbye and to Maharaj. So let's do that. Yeah. So now you can switch on your videos, and we won't be able to do the individual meetings. We will do it certainly at the end of this course, but at least switch it on so that Maharaj can see you. Otherwise, without the videos not being on, it's impersonal. Now it becomes more personal. You can all see Maharaj, and he can see you all.